Welcome to the Daily Items Winter Sports Podcast, a weekly look at what's happening with the Susquehanna Valley's high school and college teams. From Bucknell and Susquehanna University men's and women's basketball to all the high school hoops, wrestling, swimming, and more, the Daily Items Sports Team has the latest on the players, coaches, and teams to watch. Now, here's your host, Daily Items Sports Editor, Kurt Ritzman.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Items Winter Sports Podcast. I'm Kurt and I'm joined by Todd Hummel to start this week. We're going to talk a little state boys basketball. 4 games Friday night. I know you're planning to go cover 2 right downtown from here.
I was waiting to see where your arm was going.
Yeah, it's that way from where we're sitting here in the office. Shamokin boys and Danville boys in a doubleheader at Shikellamy, 6 and 7:30. What are you looking for from our Valley teams in that doubleheader?
Well, I think this is where Shamokin's decision kind of go down to Allentown Central Catholic and play a couple real good teams on the road. They ended up having to go to Loyalsock too. Kind of pays off. Wilson is a District 11 third place team, and I keep confusing them. It's not the Wilson in Reading; it's the Wilson near Allentown. So it would be a 2A school in football. So it's not a. So it's and then the Shamokin team I saw Saturday. I don't know. But Danville was so good on Saturday that I don't think you get a real true reading on Shamokin because, we were talking after that district final that Danville won 55-40 on Saturday that, I don't think, Shamokin didn't shoot well, and I don't think that's the only thing they probably did poorly in that game is they did, that's obviously a pretty darn important part of the game, but they played well. They had some looks that they couldn't convert. They just have one of those nights that they didn't make anything. So, if they're shooting the ball a little better, I think they should be okay. And then the other game, Danville is taking on Western Wayne, who is a District 2 third place team who has a little bit of size. Their leading scorer is a center who is 6'5", junior. Actually, their 2 leading scorers, and of course the name escapes me when I have to come up with them, both average over 17 points, but nobody else is over 3 points. So it sounds over 4 points. I'm sorry. There's a guy like 4.8, I think, is the third leading scorer. But so they're kind of a 2-man team. They have not been to Western Wayne hasn't been to the state playoffs since 1993. Their coach is Al Semenza, I think that's how you pronounce it, who's been a coach up there for a long time at again, it's killing me. But it's actually one of the closed Catholic schools, the Catholic school in Dunmore, and I'm sure somebody will know O'Reilly? I don't know. I know you don't know. They weren't open when you were here. But anyway, so they are. They should provide a test for Danville, and I think, I really think Danville's has a good shot to win. The issue is coming up next round when it ends up being. It looks like it was probably going to be Imhotep Charter in the second round. So
that's a tough second round.
I was asked Lewisburg a couple years ago about that second round. I think Fats Rutzel played in that game.
Wow.
Who had I think it was 40. Had 41 last night for Rhode Island against St. Joseph. So yeah. So Imhotep was the second place out of District 12, and I think they should win their first round game. Going out on the limb there, but yeah. So. But yeah, it's what a great Saturday at
Friday.
No, Saturday at this past Saturday at Shikellamy.
Sure.
Yeah, the 2 district final games, Mifflinburg girls beating Danville and the Danville boys game, and then Shamokin Jersey Shore at the end of the girls game. It was probably the best game of the day. The consolation game ended on a buzzer beater, and it's gonna be a long weekend for those Schick workers with 2 games on. It's 2 games Friday and then 3 girls games on Saturday. So 5 state playoff games at Shikellamy. So if you're not doing anything, that's probably the place to be this week to see basketball.
You don't have to travel far to see some good games. So do you like Shamokin too? Do you think we go 2-0 in Class 4A boys on Friday night?
It wouldn't surprise me, but that's such. I don't know much about Wilson. That's part of the issue, and the Shamokin's biggest bugaboo is obviously if somebody's going to be a lot bigger than them, that'll be a tough matchup for them. But they play such good defense, and if somebody's not used to that pressure, that they're going to cause Wilson some problems. It's a matter if Wilson's good enough to handle it.
Okay. Also Friday night we've got a pair of Class A boys, Lord's Regional starting. Really tough travel for the Red Raiders. open state at Shamokin High School.
I think they have to walk down the hill. The girls have to travel farther because they're at Schick on Saturday.
Yes.
Lord should win that game against what's District 3 5th place.
Mount Calvary?
Yeah, Mount Calvary. I'm more interested that it looks like their second round game is going to be Halifax, the Tri-Valley League champions. That should be a fun matchup. Hopefully we get that one at Shikellamy on Tuesday night. And for the Red Raiders, it's gonna be how if they shoot well and kind of can keep teams from concentrating on Thomas, they should do real well. Obviously, the big thing for them is going to be that possible quarterfinal matchup again with Sanka for Freedom, who they beat last year in the quarterfinals, but who's probably the favorite on the right hand or the east-west side of the bracket.
Probably
top of the bracket.
favorite overall. Sanka for Freedom was number 1 seed in our final state boys ranking, or ranked number one.
But yeah, so that's a quarterfinal round matchup, so they're going to have to get that, and I think that's. That Class A field right now with Kennedy Christian up in 6A is wide open right now, and I think Lourdes probably feels that they have as good a shot as anybody of getting to the Giant Center in a couple weeks.
Greenwood Boys opens at Williamsport 8:00 in the third game of a triple header on Friday night. So late night for the Wildcats.
Yeah, that's not a short trip, but St. John. Speaking of teams that don't have a very far trip,
yeah,
but. St. John Newman got a chance to see a little bit of that district final last week against Lourdes Regional. It's going to be how Greenwood matches up with their size, with Jaden Coffey inside. David Hill's a real good guard, but Greenwood's backcourt has been playing well. Aaron Mortar, Luke Myers, and Andrew Loy all have over 30 3-pointers. They've all been shooting the ball real well this season. So. They're going to have to shoot the ball well again. I think this is probably a toss-up. That game was close for a while on Thursday, but it didn't. Newman had a real hard time inside against Thomas, and I don't think that Greenwood has that presence inside really. So I think that is going to cause them some problems. I think Newman probably moves on in this one.
Okay, yeah, a lot of Class A schools don't have a 6'6" Division I athlete.
Well, that's true too. Good point, sir.
Our other boys team, Mount Carmel, actually has a far drive. Playing at Greater Johnstown High School Saturday afternoon against Richland, which not Pine Richland, just Richland. It's Johnstown suburb, I'm told.
Yeah, Seals Grove played at Richland High School in football a couple years ago. Obviously, I think most people would assume this is an easier matchup than ending up with like a District 12 champion. Us being the third place team out of District 4. Don't know much about Richland, but Mount Carmel did a great job of bouncing back from that. I can't think of any other word other than desultory performance against Wellsboro last Tuesday. They played much better in that third place game. Speaking of that, hopefully Dominic Coombe is feeling a little better. He had the central standout had an emergency appendectomy Friday night, so he's got to be bummed that he didn't get to play in his third place game. But Tommy Reisinger has played well throughout these district playoffs. It looks like Donovan James is still struggling a little bit with his shot. I think he had one field goal against Central, but shot 12 foul shots, so did figure out a way to score, of course. But in the end, it's going to come down to how well if Mount Carmel makes shots and can get that game in the 60s and really get an up and down game going, and if Mike Belichick is playing like January Mike Belichick, then they're going to be a real tough out for somebody.
Brock Everett hit a couple key three-pointers in that game, so definitely Mount Carmel seems like they're getting deeper contributions than they were early in the year when they had 3 people and who else can help us.
Yeah, and they have not gotten a game where everybody has played well. It hasn't been all 3 guys off the bench. It's just been one of the guys off the bench and things like that. So if they can get a decent streak, they could probably they have a shot to win a. They would have I would have thought before the January that they would have a shot to win a game or 2 in states, and they did not play as well at the end of the year. But if they can reach that level again, they certainly have an opportunity to win a couple games.
We're going to transition to the next level, talk a little Bucknell. The women play Wednesday night. I'm going to head over there after we finish taping for their regular season finale against Army. If they win, they're the number 1 seed for the tournament, which starts the 11th. I think that's Monday. Looking good. That win at American on Saturday put them back in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. I think that's huge.
And I was going to say, I thought we were hitting some sort of weird plane as we were transitioning sports there. Well, had they lost that, were they upset before we did the podcast last week?
Yes,
they were. So they bounced back from that. It was 1 point Saturday at American, and learning experience probably. Right. And you got caught looking ahead to play your championship game. It didn't. If you win tonight, it doesn't cost you, and probably nobody remembers that they lost that game. They don't get the number 1 seed throughout the tournament. People are going to remember you lost that game before the American contest, and Coach Russell over the years has done a great job of having them ready to play these games like this. So I really think that they're still the favorite for the Patriot League, and I think in an honest moment they would probably say that they feel they're the favorite for the Patriot League.
If they play their best, I don't think anyone can beat them, and I think only American has a chance.
And depending on the draw, and it's all about draws on the women's side. This is a team that's got a good shot. Of somebody that does not see them to pull off an upset and win a game in this NCAA tournament.
Sure. The thing that's bothered me since I've been here is I think they're really good. And then they go and they get like a 15 seed and have to play Maryland, who feels underseeded at a 2 and have no shot 2 years ago. If they get the kind of seed that the men get at 12-13, I really think that they could win.
Yeah, but the men don't have not gotten a 12-13 seed until recently.
The
Patriot League has always been a 15 or a 16 seed. It's just it's not about. It's usually not when it comes to that. It's not about them. It's about the rest of the league and how strong the rest of the league is.
The men open the quarterfinals Thursday night. Tonight, probably when you're watching this, host Holy Cross. We were talking in our daily meeting with the whole newsroom about that game 3 years ago that Bucknell fans probably want to forget, when they were the 1 seed and lost double overtime to Holy Cross. So this year's the 2 seed. They're definitely looking to avoid that.
And this is a Holy Cross team that beat them a couple weeks ago, and has real good defense. And Bill Carmody's the coach, so a former Princeton guy. So you're going to see a lot of patterns, a lot of motion offense. It's a tough defend for Bucknell. But again, I can't imagine, knock on wood, that this senior class would go out with a loss to Holy Cross on their own home court as the 2 seed. More importantly is, I think, can you get to the NCAA tournament? Can you win that championship game on the road, which is always tough, and then you add into the fact that there's a good chance you're going to Hamilton, New York for that championship game too. It's it's a long bus ride. It's March, so it's still probably going to be like January in Hamilton, New York. So it should be a great Patriot League tournament, and hopefully they get off to a good start tomorrow.
Yeah. So if Bucknell wins, they'll host a semifinal Sunday, either noon or 2, depending on what else happens. That, I believe, is going to be on TV. Championship game next Wednesday will definitely be on TV. If it's Bucknell and Colgate, it'll be in New York, so we'll have to make podcast arrangements because I'll be headed up there. If someone upsets Colgate, Bucknell will host, assuming they make it.
How about I freestyle the entire thing while you're gone?
Yeah, go for it. So a lot to look forward to with both those Patriot League tournaments, and at least, if Bucknell wins, at least 5 games in Soika Pavilion for
over the next 2 weeks, 10 days.
Yep.
It's a lot of basketball, too.
Yeah, it'll be fun, though. So Todd and I are going to talk a little wrestling. Chris Nagy had some vehicular problems today, but don't worry, he's still going to be in Hershey all weekend providing lots of good content, so make sure to check out the Daily Item for that. And he'll still have stories in Thursday's paper, too, so don't worry about the print. Just you have to worry about Todd and I filling in here. 27 Valley wrestlers between Class 2A and 3A. It's so weird. I don't know why we don't just have 1 and 2 in wrestling.
Because they do the 2 classifications, 2A and 3A.
I don't like it.
Duly noted, sir.
So
I would not send your concerns to the PIAA right now.
All right. Maybe after all the state championships are over. Southern Columbia's Gage Garcia, undefeated. He's probably our best chance to win a state title in my mind.
I think that's a pretty good bet. I think Dakota Snyder probably has a real good chance. I don't think you can count out Gavin either. Gabe Gramley had some, has a little trouble with Gable Strickland, but I think he's certainly talented enough to do it too if he can figure out a way to beat Gable Strickland. And I'm also interested, obviously, in 3A to see what Nate Schoen does in his second state tournament. Looking over at the bracket, good Lord, the guy that beat Nate last year that gave him his first loss, Hunter Kolka from Sun Valley. Looks like that he didn't wrestle much this season. He's only 12-0 going into the state tournament, and Nate beat Dorian Crosby already in the Northwest Regional Final. So I think he's got a real good chance to pull off a 3A state title. This is always a week down there at Hershey. I mean, we always have. It seems like actually this is probably not as many as we've had.
This is the fewest we've had in the 3 years I've been here.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's kind of a testament to how strong the wrestling is in District 4. I mean, the 2 Krebs kids from Montoursville, Dylan Bennett. There's plenty of kids right on the edge that are going. I don't think, and there was another impressive win. Oh, Jacob Feast, the sophomore kid from Lime Mountain, pulled off had a real big win this weekend to get to the state tournament. I think that's the best part about this is some of these these kids are some of these kids are good wrestlers, but it's nice to see some of the local kids pull off an upset and kind of get to some of these kids are surprised to get to Hershey, and that I'm going to say something controversial, but I think they might work the hardest. Just if you play basketball, you don't have to skip a cheeseburger once in a while because you're close to your weight allowance, or you don't have to worry about your weight as much. And there is nothing like I can't imagine having to wrestle 6 straight minutes either. But I can't imagine doing anything for 30 seconds. So that's another issue. But yeah, so this is such a great time of year for them, and hopefully we get a state titleist and oh, my train of thought went away. So,
yeah, we've had a lot of nice features this weekend.
Yeah, Chris has done a real good job.
Kids, how they got there, what their goals are. I know one kid that stuck out to me, the story of Cameron Klein from Midwest, had all these injuries and didn't want to give up on wrestling, and finally makes it to state this year as a senior. And, I think he has a good shot. I mean, maybe not to win a state title, but, to stand on that podium Saturday night.
And you get a medal. You get a podium finish as a senior in Pennsylvania. If you've got the grades or the scores, there's a lot of schools that, you can continue your, if you're placing in Pennsylvania, you're a pretty darn good wrestler. And, at the least, a real good Division III program like a Lycoming or something like that will certainly take you and provide you with an education. And I think that's the one of the best parts about wrestling around here is that's one of the few sports that if you are pretty good around here, you're gonna get a chance to go someplace and prove yourself in college.
And so if you're watching this Thursday morning, don't leave dailyadam.com. If you're a wrestling fan, we'll have updates, I think, at the end of each round approximately throughout the whole 3-day weekend, as long as we have Valley wrestlers in there. So make sure to check that out. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to Todd, and I'm going to welcome in Scott Dudinskie. We got 8 girls basketball state first-round games to talk about.
Oh, he has more than I do. See ya.
Happy to welcome in Scott to talk 8 first-round state girls basketball games. I know Friday night you're headed to see Mount Carmel, making the long trips, open up in Shamokin. Not quite as close as Lourdes boys who open at Shamokin, but what are you expecting to see from Mount Carmel girls? What are some things to look for?
Well, I think the one of the things that stuck out to me, and just looking at the girls' playoffs as a whole, was the fact that the 3 district champions that are local to our coverage area, the Lourdes girls in Class A, the Mount Carmel girls, as you mentioned, in Class AA, and Mifflinburg girls in 4A. So one of the things that stuck out was the experience that these teams have, state playoff experience. Mount Carmel, since you mentioned the Red Tornadoes starting against the third-place team from District 9, Clarion, although they lost 5 seniors last year and are bringing back, the starting juniors or starting sophomores, excuse me. This will already be those girls' third state playoff game. They were 1-1 last year, and so they have a taste of this atmosphere, this level of play. The win and advance kind of scenario, lose and go home situation, and Mount Carmel's coming in with some momentum, beating the top seed Southern Columbia in the district semis, and then this number 2 seed Sayre to win the championship. Hesitate to say maybe playing some of its best basketball of the season. So I would look to pair that momentum with a team that has some experience and give Mount Carmel a good shot on Friday night in a game that's close to home. The other team in that division in AA being Southern Columbia, with a rather tough matchup against Mahanoy area, not only for the strength of Mahanoy in District 11, it being the champion in AA there, but just the fact that Southern Columbia conversely hasn't been playing strong basketball, especially on the offensive end. Some shooting woes that have permeated the district playoffs for them. They've managed to win 2 games despite not shooting very well, and in the one game that they were fairly dreadful from the field, 3 for 36 in the second half. They were beaten by Mount Carmel and lost their chance to repeat as District 4 AA champions. And it hasn't been the curiosity with Southern Curtis. It hasn't been necessarily a perimeter problem. It hasn't been the 3-point jump shots or the 15-foot jumpers. It's been a lot of shots around the basket, drives, putbacks, things of that nature, which just tended to catch the rim and roll off for whatever reason. And I don't know really the remedy for that. I don't know how you remedy making the short shots. It's not something that you can necessarily take extra time on and have somebody throw the ball back in your face with a block. You really have to be fundamentally sound and use the backboard and get those shots in. And I think the one thing Southern Columbia has going for it is its own experience. A lot of girls that have played a lot of basketball and athleticism and skill. It's not something that I don't think they can overcome. It's just something that against a good team like Mahanoy area will magnify in a 32-minute situation like the playoff game.
And you mentioned these girls have state experience. A lot of them just won a state soccer title too.
Sure.
In a couple months ago. That kind of apples and oranges, but that could help in this kind of situation, just dealing with the pressure.
Absolutely.
Also playing Friday night, we've got a pair of 3A girls teams. Warrior Run, the district champions, headed to they didn't win. They district runner-ups, excuse me. Headed to Williamsport for a 5 o'clock game. Lewisburg, who was third in District 4, headed to West York for a 6 o'clock game.
Yeah, Warrior Run is the only one of our local teams which drew a team with a sub 500 record. And Palmerton was a little bit of a surprise in District 11. They knocked off second-seeded North Schuylkill in the semifinals, which has been a proud program. And then Palmerton was beaten 50-28 in the final by Notre Dame Green Pond. So it's on paper, it's a matchup that you might think would suit Warrior Run, a sub 500 team. The district that Palmerton is coming from, District 11, strong district, good basketball. So I don't think anybody would necessarily hand this game to Warrior Run, but I think it gives the defenders some motivation. They played good basketball. Took a very good Loyal Sock team to beat them for the title. And I think, Warrior Run probably has even odds in that game to win. Okay. Lewisburg, on the other hand, playing the District 3 runner-up, DeLone Catholic, that's a difficult draw. There's no doubt about it. We agree in the office this year that Susquehanna, although the Susquehanna girls didn't play for the Tri-Valley League Championships because of weather issues and things of that nature, is that Susquehanna was far and away the best team in the Tri-Valley League. They dismantled some of the teams that we cover more closely pretty handily throughout the year. Well, DeLone beat Susquehanna 70-35. doubled them up.
Wow.
So it gives you a sense of just what we're talking about. Even though the Lone, like I said, was a runner-up in its district, it's a very traditionally powerful program. This year, obviously, no different. And Lewisburg would absolutely have its work cut out for in head coach Brent Sample's first state playoff game.
Wow, yeah. I didn't know about that doubling up Susquehanna. That matchup just seems a whole lot tougher.
Yeah.
Shikellamy is hosting a state triple-header, all girls games. I want to start with the late game. Mifflinburg are Class 4A champions. If you didn't see Wednesday's Daily Items, Scott has a nice story about how their three guards, Angela Reamer and the Griffith twins, have been leading them. So make sure to check that out. How do you give the Wildcat? What sort of chance do you give the Wildcats here in their state opener?
Well, going back to that original theme of experience, this will be the fifth state playoff game for the Mifflinburg seniors, the Griffith twins, Libby Whitaker. They're 1-3 previously, with that one win being Allentown Central Catholic several years ago. But this is a team with what I believe it's 13 consecutive wins now. Only 4 losses on the season, and within those 13 consecutive wins, they avenged every loss they'd taken earlier in the year. They've only lost 4 times this year by a grand total of 11 points.
Wow.
So, like I said, this is a team that's playing with momentum. It has proven itself to be able to win in close games, being able to run away against teams that during the course of the season that it should beat handily. Nanticoke, I think, offers some resistance, a good opponent that's going to force Mifflinburg to play the kind of defense that it played against Danville to win the district championship. Guard-oriented, 3-point threats, team that will make you pay for overplaying somebody and missing your rotation as you try to guard the perimeter. The one thing that Mifflinburg has going for it, as you mentioned, the 3 guards, that they can get away with neither of their forwards scoring in the district championship game and still beating a very good Danville team the way it did. So I like Mifflinburg's chances against Nanticoke. That would set up most likely a rematch against Kennardale in the second round. Kennardale beat the Wildcats by 19 in the first round last year.
Okay.
In a game in which Mifflinburg, I think, was caught on its heels early and never really did find its confidence in that game. I'd like to see them roll into the second round with a nice batch of confidence and see what that matchup would have to offer.
The team Mifflinburg beat in the district final, Danville, also gets a third-place team in their state opener, which will be the first game of that triple-header at Schick.
Against Tamaqua, from what I'm told, from what I understand from that neck of the woods, another team that is very three-point oriented.
Okay.
A team that likes to put up the 3, live and die by it, if you will. Danville can be susceptible to that kind of offense. The thing is, Danville's very good on the boards. So if you're not dialed in and you don't have your shot working, that could go against them, because Danville, with Karina Petrus, with Clara Coombe, with Linnea Williams, will clean up the boards and run in transition and get points that way. So that I look to be maybe one of the better matchups of the weekend.
We talked about experience. A team that probably has the most state experience is Lourdes Regional. They Class A district champions. They play at Schick at 5:30, and when the seniors were freshmen, they were state runner-ups.
Correct.
Okay, and they've been the last 2 years also.
So sure. So they've been to the districts the last 2 years, having won the district championship. The year they were the state runner-up, they did not win the district. They were runners-up to North Penn Mansfield, but. To illustrate your item on experience, this will be for the Lourdes seniors, Liliana Bickle, Frances Chaponis, and Sierra Coleman, their 12th state playoff game. The Red Raiders are 8-3 in state playoffs. So they open with the third place team from District 1, Faith Christian. And although that they probably could have looked better against Sullivan County, in the district final, I'm talking about Lourdes here. Mm-hmm. I do think that they played just their brand of basketball well. Did they have probably too many turnovers for Coach Mike Limbar's liking? Yes, but they played the kind of basketball that said, we are the district champions. This is our game. We may mess up from time to time, but you still have to take it from us.
Sure.
And this is the kind of game that it could be a real springboard for them in terms of, maybe getting 2-3 games into the state playoffs and seeing, where their fortunes lie, where the draws are from there on out. I like the team that Lourdes puts on the floor. They're not very deep, but they do, the 2-3 zone and move the basketball and play the high post game extremely well. And of all the teams, and I'm speaking of the 8 teams you mentioned that have qualified on the girls' side, I think Lourdes probably has the best makeup, also pathway to maybe make some things happen for themselves moving forward.
Okay. And then getting short on time, so a quick thought on our District 3 runner-up, Greenwood, playing Chester Charter School of the Arts, I think, at East Pennsboro.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about Chester Charter School for the Arts. What I can tell you is Greenwood disappointed in a district championship game that outplayed by a bigger squad, and I think they wouldn't want the season to end that way. A 20-win season is the opportunity where they've taken great strides as a program under Jeff Dietz. I think they would try to put their best foot forward in a game like this, and just something they can hang their hat on. Not only were they in the running for the Tri-Valley League, but they finished second in the district, and you would have that maybe state playoff victory to build on for next season with a good core of girls coming back.
Sure. So we've got a lot of, as we just talked about, a lot of state playoffs coming up, college tournaments. So make sure to keep tuned into thedailyAtom.com and pick up the Daily Item, and we'll be back next week to talk about the second or third round of state playoffs and recap everything else. Thanks for watching.